was a depressed, suicidal teen, 7 years, and kind of came out enough to be functional, and I got really interested in how the mind worked. And what I saw was what I now call, a series of more and more useful lies, right? So it's like theories about how life works, thoughts about how life works that made me feel better when I thought them. Which was great, except for one thing. I had to think them. Because they weren't principles, they weren't gravity. They were only true when I was thinking about them. They only worked when I was doing them. And the problem is, I'm a variable. So the first thing I saw that was true, and it kind of startled me, was, because I taught a field, NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which was known as the study of the structure of subjective experience. So literally, we were studying subjectivity, personal thinking. And then one day it dawned on me that subjectivity is an objective truth. Right? The fact that everybody lives in their own separate reality is true. Objectively. It's everybody does that. And that threw me. That was like, oh, well, okay, if that's true, and I could see that was true, what else might be true? And that's one of the things I've found that has helped me, is to look for what's true, as opposed to what's positive, or even what's helpful. Because what's true winds up being helpful, even if in the moment, you don't get a hit off it. Does that make sense? Now, the second thing that I started to see is that there's a tremendous difference between listening and thinking. So right now, part of you's listening to me, and part of you's thinking, probably, right? And to the extent that you're thinking, you're not really listening. And to the extent that you're listening, you're not really thinking. Now, me too, right? That's not a... But you can actually learn to listen. You can actually learn to listen with less on your mind simply by wanting to. By seeing, you know what, I might hear more if I think less, at least while I'm listening. And I've found for me that listening has almost become my spiritual practice. Because when I listen, I hear things that aren't said. I hear things from beyond my own noise. And that's when I get insight, when I get inspiration, it comes from that kind of listening for it, instead of trying to think my way to it. So that's the second thing that I found when I was kind of looking, that was like, wow, okay, that's different. That's helpful to me. The other thing that I really saw that was really helpful to me was the difference between the little s self and the big S self. That when I think about who I am, well, sometimes I'm Michael Neill, internationally renowned teacher, trainer, and coach, right? But I was also aware that there's kind of a big S version of me too, that sometimes there's not much separation between me and the other people that I'm with. And when you are in that place in you, and I am in that place in me, there's only one of us. Well, that's the big S self. It is in me, but it's also in you. It is the me that is looking out at you that is looking back at me. It is the you that is hearing, but also it's the oneness. And I notice that when I rely on that self, well, actually, that self is incredibly reliable, right? There is something about that space that it guides me, right? It's like an inner GPS. It kind of knows where to go, and if I go off track, it just redirects me.